Hello, Drag Racing Weekly. This is Tyler Jackson.
And this is Taylor Larson.
And we've got another special guest. If you follow us on Twitter, you would have known about it. If not, that's your own problem. We have Ron Capps on here. And how's it going, Ron?
Good. How are you guys doing? I appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And I'm doing great.
Oh, yeah, me too.
That's good.
It is.
So,
we got Ron Capps on our show.
Yeah, I know, right? So, we've been talking about having Ron on here for, quite a while, and we finally were able to get a good schedule worked out, and it worked out perfectly for us and for you. So yeah.
Well, yeah. Which one of you did I meet up there in Billings last year?
Taylor, did you go last year?
Yeah, we both went, but you talked to him.
Yeah. I talked to you last year and gave you the paper and all that stuff, but everything was so hectic because it was I believe it was right before the U.S. Yeah, it was. It was right before the U.S. Nationals kicked off. And so you were just...
Oh, yeah.
You were running back and forth with your head cut off. So...
Yeah, but it's a fun thing we did up there in Billings with Napa.
Right.
There at the distribution center, we had live TV, and we did the Toys for Tots, where we raised money for the local Toys for Tots. And it was cool, for a couple reasons. Meeting you guys and then getting to go on your show was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that finally worked out. I apologize for not getting on sooner, but I'm glad we finally got together.
Oh, yeah.
And then getting to hang out with a lot of our fans that we had in Montana was cool because we don't have a race necessarily close to Billings, Montana.
Yeah.
And it's really a lot of drag race fans are in that area. And so when I get to go do appearances like that aren't really close to a drag strip that we race at, it's nice because then I'm able to sign whatever collectibles they might have or have a conversation or just kind of hang out. It's a little more intimate than it is at the racetrack for sure.
Yeah, and we love... you've been coming to Billings for I don't know how many years. I wasn't here the first few times that you've been here, but I was, like you said, got to talk to you a little bit last time you were here, and that was lots of fun. And I actually had to run out because I had to go to work, but it was still good talking to you and stuff like that. So, and I'm glad it did work out. So, but yeah.
Yeah, me too. Me too. We usually make a trip out there, either Billings or Bozeman. I know we've made a couple different appearances in that area for the local Billings Napa Distribution Center, but I just came back actually a couple weeks ago. I went up to Williston and spent some time up there with the Napa Auto Parts store owner up in Williston and their family. It was actually they bought an auction. I guess I was up for auction.
You were up for auction.
Wow.
Yeah, I was up for auction last Christmas time. The Napa Auto Parts did, and the owner and his wife of the Williston, North Dakota store purchased and outbid everybody. So I guess it was $8,000 that went to Toys for Tots. And
wow.
So I went up and did a store appearance for him, but mainly we hung out on their ranch, just kind of hanging out for a couple days in between my Boston Epping, New Hampshire race and the Bristol, Tennessee race. So those are the kind of times, like I just said, in Billings, where we get to hang out and spend a little more one-on-one time with a lot of fans.
Yeah, that is absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about that, so that's pretty cool. So
yeah, I didn't either until I was already auctioned off. But I guess it could have been a lot worse. It turned out to be a really fun trip, and the people around that store are great people. All the Napa Auto Parts people I get to meet that own the stores are great, but I had an exceptional time just kind of chilling because they bought the auction. They bought me for the auction, but they wanted me to enjoy myself and not really work, which was kind of cool. So we just kind of hung out more than we did anything else.
Oh, that is really, really, really cool. So
yeah.
And when I talked to you back up, I don't remember what month or whatever it was that you were here, but when I talked to you last, didn't you say that you used to race in Ennis, Montana? Or
well, my first driving job was for John Mitchell, the Montana Express drag strip.
That's right.
He owned that, and that was my first official driving job.
That's right.
He had an A-field dragster, and he owned a top alcohol dragster. So he was the guy that kind of gave me my first shot at driving. And So I lived a little bit at his place off and on. I traveled back to California, but mainly I lived right up in S, at his house, and the shop was right behind his house. And then I'd also drive the 18-wheeler to the track and help get the car ready as well with a couple of crew guys. So, yeah, that was really my first ride.
Wow, that is really, really, really cool. So, all right, so we can kick things off here.
Yeah, we should. So, obviously, we all watch NHRA and keep up to date and stuff, but just from your perspective as the driver, how would you assess your season so far?
My season?
Yeah.
Well, I think I'd give it a solid B+ right now. We've won 2 races. I think we've been in 7 final rounds, which is insane. Because that's an awesome season, or a fantastic season for most anybody. But we just felt like we've left a little on the table. A few of those final rounds we felt we could have won. We were just outran the last race in the final round with my teammate Matt Hagan. They just ran quicker than we did. And, I think winning any race that you can win is going to be a major accomplishment. So it's good to get locked into the tracks to shoot out an Indy with a win. It's good to have more than one win. It's great for our sponsors. But the ultimate goal this year, we have 2 major goals to shoot for, and that's to win the U.S. Nationals, which I've never done personally, and to win a championship at the end of the year. So everything's kind of gearing up for that. All the testing we've done with different 6-disc clutch and all the fun stuff we've tried has worked out really good. And so I'm excited to see what my crew chief October has in store for these next few races, because we're getting to some hot tracks. I leave tomorrow for Norwalk, Ohio, and then we go straight to Chicago, and those are 2 very, very warm tracks this time of the year. And then the West Coast swing with Denver, Sonoma, and Seattle. That's going to vault us right into being almost ready for Indy. So it's a great time right now. I feel like it's been a good season so far, but I feel like we got a few more wins.
Yeah. And, speaking of wins and stuff, so back last year, actually, in New England, now, when we saw, because we covered that event, and because you won New England, and so, but I think the best part is when you got out of the car, you rolled down the front of the car and off the front, and what does that feel like when you have accomplished, just an amazing victory?
Well, the victory was cool. The falling off the car was... everybody thought I did it completely on purpose, but I started out to slide down the car like my old buddy Eric Nevlin used to do. When he would win a race, he would run and slide on the side of the car. And when I first won, it was the first live on ESPN show that NHRA had. So I knew a lot of people were tuned in, and I thought I was going to try to slide down the car at the last minute. When I jumped off the front, the roof hatch kept me from going down the side, so I kind of spun and turned. And somehow I didn't hurt myself, and I didn't hit the injector. Somehow I pulled it off. It made it look like I did it on purpose, but trust me, I surely didn't. But it was a huge win. So when that was all said and done, I landed on my feet. I was extremely happy. And I think that was a big race for NHRA being live on ESPN. Huge for us because obviously live TV, but that was also a track. I think there's only 2 tracks I haven't gotten to win at as a driver, and Maple Grove is one, and that was one on the list. So for me it was cool because I thought, man, I just knocked this one off the list. So I was a little more excited than usual.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. And like we said, when we watched that video on Wednesday night, and because I think we were racing that weekend too, so we didn't really see it live. But anyway, it was absolutely just awesome to see. You get that excited and stuff like that. So.
Oh yeah, I get excited.
So. Yeah. Okay, so so like you said, you have been wanting to knock Maple Grove off the list and stuff like that. What victory and win has been like the most memorable for you personally?
Oh man, that's a good question. It's hard to put one or two above the rest. There's been some that really meant a lot for different reasons. My first one in the Flying Club in St. Louis was a pretty epic, driving for Don Prudhomme, and we had Rusty Wallace and Kenny Wallace and some of the other NASCAR guys that happened to be at that race when we won that first race in the Copenhagen car. So that was a big one for me. But then there's the one we won with the Brute car when my crew chief, Ed McCulloch, was just diagnosed with cancer at the time, and he wasn't at that race.
Oh.
And he was on the phone with our assistant crew chief, helping him doing it by the phone. He was in the hospital at home, so that was a big win. So yeah, I'd say one of those two. And then anytime I can win with my family, near a home track out here in California, that's a big win for me. Like Sonoma and Vegas, ones that they're close enough for my family to come to. Those are always big ones.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned Don Prudhomme. What was it like working for such an iconic person so early in your racing career?
Well, yeah, the phone call was, I'll never forget it, getting a phone call to go drive for a guy like that, who I looked up to and was sort of my hero. And I found myself constantly kind of pinching myself, traveling to the race with him, and it never really wore off. Once in a while, you get used to it, but you still have to look over and you're like, man, I'm driving for the legendary Don Prudhomme. So I had those moments a lot, and it was very, very cool to drive for him. Right up until I left to go to Schumacher. He had lost U.S. tobacco sponsorships. I knew that I needed to start looking around. And sponsorships were hard to get, so it was tough. But it was just great to work for him, man. It's like a baseball player having, your favorite all-time baseball player take you under his wing and show you how to play the game of baseball, or your favorite football player showing you how to play football. It was as big as it gets for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what kind of led you to, like you said, going into Don Prudhomme and stuff like that? He called you. But what kind of really kicked off for you and made you decide to take the route of wanting to race? And did you ever have any, second guesses or anything like that?
No, not for me. It's been. I never thought I'd get to do it for a living. I always did it growing up, helping my dad on his race car, and then get to do it on weekends, helping other guys. Never in a million years did I ever think I would have it for a job, let alone getting paid to drive the coolest race cars in the world. I never thought that would ever happen. So it's a blessing, but it's also, I have to approach it every morning when I wake up like, hey, I'm going to do my job better than anybody else I have to line up against in a race car. So it's a constant motivator for me. But being able to say that I'm making a living in NHRA is pretty neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so how old were you when you started racing?
Well, my dad raced when I was a kid just as a hobby, like a sportsman on weekends. So I was around it all my life, just helping him on his cars. And then I was a crew member before I became a driver on an alcohol dragster. So I guess I was sort of around it. I didn't get my first shot at driving really until I was in my late 20s. But I worked on it for so long, I already felt like I'd driven one even before that. So once I got a shot at driving it to get my license, it became much easier than had I not been able to work on them all that time. So to answer your question, I'm not sure when I actually started, because I've sort of been around the sport most of my life.
Right. So, you mentioned your dad several times. Now, how much did your dad influence you and and kind of persuade you. And did he like at all? I don't want to say push, but is he kind of what made you, choose that path?
Oh, sure. Yeah, for sure. That's what he did on weekends. He had a race car, and he raced drag strips at the local little drag strip in our little town of California. So my weekends were, as a kid, going with my mom and dad to the racetrack. So that's really all I knew on weekends. Once I got older, started playing sports and stuff. But really, there was no other place I'd rather be than at the racetrack. So it just kind of kept going from there. And now look, it's something I get to do, and I get paid to do it. So it's worked out pretty good.
Yeah.
Now we talked to Tony Schumacher a couple times, and he always has good memories of Blaine Johnson. And you worked with him for a while. Do you have any memories or anything that kind of stands out to you about getting to work with him?
With Tony?
Blaine Johnson.
Oh, Blaine. Yeah, lots of great memories. I knew them growing up. I used to go, when I first started helping Blaine and Alan Johnson. A lot of people don't know that Alan actually drove before Blaine did. Blaine used to just work on it when we were growing up, and Alan drove. And it wasn't until Alan got out of the seat and started tuning it and put Blaine in the seat and they started winning. So I just remember going to their farm and working out in a sort of a shed that they had outside the farm. They had a dairy they had on. And we would go out there and work, late at night. And it would be cold nights out in that cold shed out behind the dairy, working on their outlaw dragster. And I'd always tag along with my dad to help them. And then sometimes Blaine and I would go do stuff away from, go out and do stuff when we got a little older. And so it was unfortunate when I learned that I was going to get my job at John Prudhomme. I was in Indianapolis, and they were going to make the announcement, and I was standing behind Blaine's car. And he'd already known, but that's the day he died. So I was sort of looking forward to my first rookie year and then being able to compete with at the racetrack with Blaine, but unfortunately we lost him.
Yeah, it was really sad. So what were some of the challenges, I guess, transitioning from mainly Top Fuel to Funny Car, but just ever between different racing classes or vehicles?
Well, I haven't done a whole lot of different racing. I didn't do any sportsman racing growing up. I went straight, as a crew member working on alcohol dragsters. So I didn't get to go through the whole sportsman thing too much, other than my dad racing when I was a kid as a hobby. So the challenges that I had were mainly as a crew member, and learning how to work on the car, and learning how to do the clutch and superchargers, and how to take the chassis apart and look at it and clean it and put it back together. Those kind of things. That was really my challenge. So I know a lot. Back when I was growing up, they didn't have junior dragsters, so I didn't have the luxury of being able to get go-karts, but no junior dragsters. So kids nowadays have a little bit easier path, because if they want to drive, they can certainly get in a junior dragster and get that feel of what it feels like to go down go down the strip. And it gives them an idea what it feels like, but I never had that chance. I just I did it as a crew member, so a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of different, in 2013, so a couple years ago, you went down to Australia to drive the LA Hooker. What was... I lost my question.
What was that
like, I guess, yeah.
Well, I'd never been there. So for me, it was cool because I got to take my daughter and my wife, and it was my first time as well as theirs going that far, let alone to go there and drive a race car. So I was really, really excited about it. And once I got down there and met everybody that I was going to race against, I found out really how many fans we have over there. They're huge NHRA fans. that was just a big deal. I had a time of my life. It was fun to race against them. It was fun just to hang out with. You sort of learn that everybody, the drag racing really isn't any different anywhere else in the world. There's little things that are different. The tracks might be a little different here and there, but for the most part, it's the same thing. Everybody's got the same passion, and that's what made it fun. So I had a great time.
Well, that's great. So I don't know if Taylor, did you ask this one? What are some challenges? Yeah. Okay. I had to run out and get the phone charger. It was about to die. So in 2012, you lost the championship by 2 points. What goes through your head when you're that close and it slips out?
Well, a lot of emotions. At the time, you don't have anything going through your head because you're right in the middle of a fight to win a championship, and everything you've fought for all year long is coming down to one day. And we were battling my teammates, so didn't have a whole lot of time to sort of get caught up in the moment. But once it happened and we lost the semifinals, I think it was, and he won, and they said that he clinched it. Then everything kind of floods out of you, all the emotions all built up. So really, you kind of put all that stuff aside up until the time it happens, and there's nothing we could have done any different. We just raced our hardest, and things didn't land where we hoped they would, and we got beat by 2 points. And sometimes you look back and say, hey, we should have or could have, or maybe we could have gained a few points here or there, but you can't do that. All it does is make it worse. So we just went into the off season and focused on being better the next year.
Yeah.
So, what do you obviously Wow, that was okay. But I lost it again. What do you enjoy doing on the kind of in your downtime or like on the off weekends?
I just like hanging out at home. I don't get home a lot because I'm traveling. I do a lot of appearances for Napa. Do a lot of traveling, different appearances, let alone the race schedule. So for me, I like to come home and just be home and sort of chill with the family and our friends. That I play golf a little bit. I do try to stay in shape. I work out a lot when I can. Other than that, I just like to come home and charge my batteries up and just relax.
Yeah. So, hold on, I lost my train of thought now. Oh crap. So you've had every driver, you've been on fire, you've been all over the place. You've had a couple incidences. What is when you're, if the body doesn't come off the car when you blow the blower, and you got fire in the cockpit and all this and that, what's going through your head? I'm sure it's just stop the car and get out, but is there anything in particular that you're thinking about, or?
No, all those things are different. It never blows up the same, even though it may look like it from the outside. No fire is ever the same in the car. You can ask John Force the same question. He's made more runs than I have, and he'll tell you the same thing. Every situation is different, and you just program yourself time and time again on what to do if something goes wrong in the car. And there's a process and a checklist to go down in your head. You have things to do to make sure you get the fuel off, get the chutes out, little things like that. And you just got to make sure you know what to do. And I've done it enough to sort of go through that. And there's times when it happens and you sometimes panic a little bit more than other times. But in the end, every one of us, funny car drivers, top fuel drivers, we're a little bit different than most people. We obviously are catapulted from 0 to 320 plus miles per hour in 1,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of live on that adrenaline and having different sounds around you and smells and all kinds of different things that you got to do at the same time and still focus on on what the car is doing. So it's a different breed, and I think every driver will tell you the same thing as well. You know, every run is different somehow. Every explosion is a little bit different, and you just try to hope that you do the right thing, because you don't have time to think or second guess yourself. You just got to do what comes natural. And sometimes you do the right thing, and sometimes you don't. And if you don't, hopefully you live through it, and you're able to tell yourself, hey, this is where I made a mistake, and I'll make it better next time.
For sure. So, after you have somebody crash like that, what keeps you going and getting back in that car?
The car is all I think about. So for me, getting back in the car is easy. I've had lots of big explosions, lots of things like that, and my best therapy is for me to get right back in the car as soon as possible. The worst thing is to have it happen and have time off before the next time you get in the car. Too much time to think about it. That cockpit is my home. It's my calming. It's what makes me feel good. So even though I might get close to being hurt or an explosion or something, the best thing for me is to be right back in it.
Right. Now, so what for you, personally, what do you